It is the morning of September 11th. By the time you see this, it'll be around noon of September 11th. And it is the day after conservative commentator Charlie Kirk has been killed in Utah. I have seen a lot of people cover this, and I think that there is one question that people are not asking, and I think we really need to focus on the why now. We are going to break this up into three different parts. First, we're going to begin with what exactly happened. The media was kind of all over the place yesterday, multiple different stories. A guy that was arrested that was not the shooter, but they told people he was the shooter. As of right now, the shooter has still not been captured. And I think that that speaks volumes. I believe that this was a professional hit. I do not believe that some rando just woke up one day and said, yeah, I think I'm going to try to, do this today. I believe that this is something that was planned. And there's more to this story, in my opinion, than some are saying. You need to ask the question, why now? Why now? And I'm going to get into different feelings. We're going to talk about what happened. We're going to get a little bit of my analysis here, what I think is really going on. And then at the end, I'm going to tell people what to expect going forward. Because I think a lot of people are not looking at this for what it really is. We're going to talk about the bigger picture. So let's go ahead and get into it. Yesterday, Charlie Kirk was giving an event in Utah at a college. So this is something that Charlie Kirk does. He tours the country, goes to different colleges to give talks. From what I understand, from what I saw from the video, which I'm not going to show, obviously, but from what I saw from the video, before he was shot, he was talking about gangs. He was talking about killings from transgender people, etc. You know how this goes. But is that the reason why Charlie Kirk was killed? Let's get into this news segment here. It was breaking news at the time. This is ABC News.
On the air because ABC News has now confirmed that conservative activist and podcaster Charlie Kirk has been shot during an event at Utah Valley University. President Trump is now weighing in. Let's take it straight to our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky, that's been following this since the news broke. Aaron, what is the president saying?
The president is calling Charlie Kirk a great guy and saying everyone must pray for him after a shot rang out as he was speaking at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. His presence on that campus had divided it, but he was speaking at an event at an outdoor courtyard when the university says a shot rang out and the entire place emptied out. People went running. Charlie Kirk's condition is not immediately clear. We are still waiting for confirmation on his condition.
Let's pause here. At that time, he was still alive. And again, like I said, I'm not showing that shooting video on here. But basically, to make a long story short, from what I saw, he was shot in the neck. This was a professional hit. I don't care what anybody says. And not only was he shot in the neck, but he was shot in the neck in a spot that, from what I understand, after talking to people that have worked in the medical profession, he was already done for. There are certain areas in the neck where someone can be hit, where if you're hit there, by the time you get to the hospital, it's probably already too late. So this is someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Now, I don't know if this is someone who had military training, but it's very clear to me that this is someone who had some type of training. They knew where to hit. They knew exactly, how to hit that area. And we'll get into where this person, may have been positioned. We have videos about that as well as pictures. But this is not just a wake up and try to see how this goes job. This is something that was planned. I honestly feel like this is someone that had professional training that did shoot Charlie Kirk here. This was an outdoor event.
Utah Valley University said a suspect is in custody. We know nothing about that suspect or whether it's the actual shooter. A number of federal officials are now racing to the scene. Orem, Utah has a very small police department, Kira. It shares it with 2 other nearby communities. So the feds are going to be deeply involved and on their way now as everyone from the president on down in the administration asks the nation to pray for Charlie Kirk, who commonly goes out to college campuses to drum up support for President Trump's agenda and was deeply involved in helping to get the president elected. And now the president is asking the nation for its prayers for Charlie Kirk, who was shot on the campus of Utah Valley University. Kira?
Okay, the suspect that was captured at that point in time was not the shooter. It was an elderly man, an elderly white guy who, for whatever reason, was also on camera saying, asking people to shoot himself. It was really weird. I don't know who this guy is, but later on it was announced that that was actually not the shooter. Some people were wondering, and I wondered this myself, if that was actually a distraction, if that was a decoy, because the shooter did get away. So just to clear that up, that was not the shooter. Again, we still don't know who the shooter is.
All right, Aaron, I'm being told that we actually have video now of the moment that Charlie Kirk was shot, and I believe we are going to be able to hear some of the audio as well. Let's pause.
We are not going to play that. Let's go ahead and fast forward to that. I don't show that stuff on here, but we'll jump back in at this part
The
here.
security detail, Utah Valley University said a suspect was taken into custody. We don't know if that is indeed the suspected shooter, someone else who may be associated with this or what. It was not specified, and we got no word of anyone else who may have been hit or injured as a result. The campus police are investigating, and as you've heard, Kira, the FBI and other federal agencies are on the way.
So yeah, that person was not the shooter. As I said, the media, they really messed around with the story yesterday. At one point, there were reports saying that it's probably someone that shot their gun off in the crowd in an air of excitement. No. This was a direct hit. It was not, oh, I'm just gonna, say, woo, I'm excited to be here. No, that was not the case. It's also very interesting that this happened in Utah, of all places. For the most part, Utah is a red state, is a conservative state. It just goes to show you, and they don't have a high crime rate, but it goes to show you that this could happen anywhere, right? Could happen anywhere. One more clip I want to show you from the media. This was from MSNBC News. This gentleman has now been fired after making this comment.
Talk to me about the environment in which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, to emphasize what you just emphasized, we don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. But following up on what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt.
And that's the unfortunate environment we're in.
Yeah, and I think she was trying to cut him off there. So from what I understand, he has now been fired. Let's go ahead and dive into what he said here about the divisiveness. First and foremost, what people have to understand, and I've talked to many commentators about this yesterday, what people have to understand is this. Even some of the Black conservative commentators, and I saw some of their videos as well, I watched videos on both sides, were not fond of the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk had. I saw this yesterday. The divisiveness. I think we got to send a message out really quick here. First of all, I'm 100% pro free speech. People can say what they want. I don't have to agree with it. I'm not one of those people that says, oh, I'm pro free speech, but I don't want you to say this, and that. That is not who I am. But I will say this, you know, you people, you can't expect, in particular for Black people, you really cannot expect Black people to be sad in this moment, especially those that are not Black conservatives, even though some Black conservatives are offering, you know, their condolences and say they are mourning his loss. But the reality is the majority of Black people are not. Charlie Kirk, over the years, has said very racist, anti-Black things about the Black community. He made some comments not too long ago on Jubilee about slavery that was very, 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 very racist, anti-Black. He was the one that was going forward saying that he didn't want a Black woman pilot. That's mild compared to some of the other things that he said. And then more recently, the killing of the Ukrainian woman, she was killed by a Black guy. Charlie Kirk was online basically trying to find a way to incite some type of a race war among the people. We need to take back, we need to fight back, and get these people out of here, etc. Like that type of rhetoric. The rhetoric about Black people, Black gangs, and all those types of things. Charlie Kirk has for years has said racist, anti-Black comments. And I say this to say, you cannot expect the majority of the Black populace at this point in time to mourn Charlie Kirk. That is a message to go out there for everybody. You cannot expect that. He made it very clear that we are not a group that he had any respect in. And I say as a group, not as individuals, right? So of course, you know, I'm sure he still likes, like, you know, some of the Black conservative commentators, right? But as a community, he had a lot of negative, vile, racist things to say about Black people as a community. So you can't expect Black people as a community to mourn the death of Charlie Kirk. And that may be hard for some people to hear, but that is the reality. This is why you are seeing people online, on social media. This is why they are saying, I wouldn't say this, but they are saying like good riddance and all this type of stuff. I have been talking to people yesterday saying, don't celebrate this. Like, that's not the way to go about it. This is actually not a win. I'm going to get into that a little bit more to tell you what I think is going to happen from here. But he has said those things for years. What people are not asking is why now? Why was Charlie Kirk? Why was this attack on Charlie Kirk's life? Why did that happen now? Charlie Kirk has been saying vile, racist things for years. Because I'm going to show you what I believe is really going on here. I don't think that's why Charlie Kirk was killed. I really don't. Like I said, I think this was a professional hit. And I think that people are looking at this the wrong way. But you can't expect that, guys. And I see people saying that he was a father and, you know, he had a family. But these are the same things that many of us in the Black community said about Philando Castile, who was also a father, who had a family. These are some of the things we said about George Floyd, who was also a father. And Charlie Kirk is one of the people who seemed to make it his mission to, for whatever reason, still to this day, he was like, well, not till this day because he's no longer alive, but he continued to just blast like George Floyd as a person. He's a criminal, all those types of things, where many of us in the Black community were saying that's still a person. He still was a human being, right? Like, yes, he showed a counterfeit bill or whatever, but he was still a human being. He still had kids. He still had a family. We were saying those things back then. And Charlie Kirk didn't want to hear it. So you cannot expect the Black community to rally behind the death of Charlie Kirk right now. You can't expect it. So that's the first thing that I want to say. For people who are saying, I can't believe people are being this way. Why are you surprised? He had no sympathy, no empathy for Philando Castile, for George Floyd, for George Floyd's family. No sympathy, no empathy. I sat there and I watched a police officer have his neck on George Floyd, his knee on George Floyd's neck for over 8 minutes. And the excuses that we heard from people like Charlie Kirk was, oh, well, he was a criminal. He showed a counterfeit bill, those types of things. You know, as I said, like he was still a person. Still a person. So why now? Why now? Why is this happening all of a sudden? Why is this happening all of a sudden? This is the question a lot of people are not asking. And just like clockwork, they have managed to find a way to put the left and the right against each other one more time. When we were coming together on certain issues, you see, I want people to look at the big story. We were at a moment in this country where people on the left and some on the right were coming together for an anti-war coalition, anti-war movement saying stop the wars. We had people on the left and some people on the right that were coming together to say, you know what, we're getting tired of Israel. We don't want our money going to Israel. You even had right politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey speaking up and saying, no, we don't want the money to go to Israel. So we actually had a moment in this country where the left and the right were coming together on anti-war and against Israel. So when I say ask yourself that question, why now? Why is it that all of a sudden now Charlie Kirk is attacked? I want you to look at the bigger picture. And you can already see it's already starting. Here we are with Fox News. It's already starting, folks. People are pointing fingers at each other. The right is blaming the left is blaming the right. Listen to this.
Yeah, this hits differently because Charlie was one of us. And Trump gets hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. Think about it. Scalise got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us.
Does everybody see what is happening now? This is exactly what I said would happen. You had this coalition that was starting to form and I thought was really had a chance of taking off. And now we are right back where we were before. The left is after us. People on the left are like, the right is after us. So now there's this split again. Because as long as they can keep you hating each other, as long as you're on the left and they can make you hate people on the right, as long as you're on the right and they can make you hate people on the left, we will never really get anywhere in this country when it comes to fighting against the establishment, the elites, the billionaires. And that's what a lot of this comes down to. And that includes Israel as well. Doesn't everybody see what's really happening here? Doesn't everybody see what is real, what this is really all about? They have found a way to turn these groups against each other once again. Once again. You think Benjamin Netanyahu and his flack in the Likud party, you think they don't see what's happening here in American politics? You think they don't see that people on the left and people on the right don't want to be bothered with Israel anymore, want a genocide to stop? You think they don't see us calling out the fact that Israel should be a foreign agent, that we don't want to be beholden to Israel? They know exactly what's going on. And if they know what's going on, intelligence sees what's going on. And if intelligence sees that, of course, the billionaires see this as well. So I say this and I say this to say, again, you cannot expect the Black community to have this type of sympathy, this type of empathy for Charlie Kirk because of the things that he has said about the Black community. Does that mean that someone should be killed because of what they say? No. And for people who say that they're pro-free speech, you need to think about that for a second. Saying something and doing something are two different things. I believe that people have the right to say what they want. Do I believe they should be killed because they say it? No. That's why I asked the question again. Why now? So you see the division here. It's already starting. They're saying on Fox News, they said the left, they're after us. They're coming after us. Then it goes on to Donald Trump. He comes in and says the same thing. Everybody see the playbook here?
For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. For years, those on the radical...
I don't know why that video is fuzzy like that, but you guys get the point. The point is this, folks. Does everybody see what's happening? And here we go with what is to come next. Donald Trump just told you so himself, going after organizations. What do you think that means? You don't think that Benjamin Netanyahu, which he is, you don't think he's not out here taunting around like he said, well, Charlie Kirk was pro-Israel. You guys don't see what this is really about, what's really happening now? This means going forward, you are going to see an increase in surveillance. Oh, how convenient, considering Palantir is all the buzz as of recent. This is going to cause an increase in the police state. This is going to cause a crackdown on protests or any other type of, and I'll go as far as to say this, the anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian type of movement. What do you think is going to happen from here? When he says he's going to go after organizations, think about all the organizations that participate in these protests. What do you guys think is coming? Now, Donald Trump has sent in the National Guard to D.C., talking about sending them to Chicago and then later Baltimore. Is Donald Trump going to send in the National Guard to Utah after what just happened? Probably not. This is all political. And this is exactly what the establishment wants. They want us to be divided politically. We were starting to come together in some way, shape, or form when it came to war, when it came to Israel, and now they have found a way to separate us once again. So I see a lot of people cheering this on, applauding this. I say the same thing that I said back then with George Floyd and all the rest of them. No, you should not be applauding this. People can say what they want to say. Yes, I get it. There are consequences that come with that, but people shouldn't be killed because of what they say. And I want you to think about what this means for political commentators as well, and for you. What happened to Charlie Kirk can happen to any one of us. Right now, they want you to believe that this doesn't happen to people on the left. This is a lie. Many of us on the left have received death threats, and not just recently, but over the years. You don't have to like who Charlie Kirk was, but next time it could be somebody else. Next time it could be someone that you do like. It could be any one of us that do political commentary. Any one of us. It could be you. And I don't think people are seeing this for what this really is. I don't think they're looking at the big picture. I think that people are focusing on, he said these things, he said that thing, so I don't really care what happens to him. But what I am here to tell you is that is exactly what the establishment wants. They're sitting in their rooms right now smoking cigars. They're happy. They're happy. They said, look, just like that, we got them to turn their focus off of what was happening with these wars in the military and Israel. We have separated them once again and got them to bicker at each other. And that is another reason why I really believe this was a professional hit. I believe this has intel all over it. I really do. You can see from this picture here, this is the closest I think we've been able to see. The shooter was on the roof. Here's an image here. And then here's another image here on the roof. And then here's, I don't know who these people are, but there were people on the roof of the building. People on the roof of the building. People have been asking me, what about security, etc. This was an outdoor campus event. And as someone that's worked at the universities for a long time, a lot of times the outdoor campus events, there may be like one security guard, like right at the entrance to check to make sure the people who are supposed to attend that event are the ones that are coming in. But for the most part, the outdoor events, it's not so much like that. For example, when I was at MIT, when I worked at MIT, Matt Damon was one of the commencement speakers, one of the years that I worked there. And he was walking around like the halls of MIT with one security guard. When once he was outside, like that was it. That was it. So people have been asking me about that. And I just wanted to give you my experience of that. And we can even see here from this picture, this is a video actually, where they try to point out the shooter. Right there. Right there. Running on the roof. So does this seem familiar to you? Doesn't this kind of remind you of the Trump rally where the shooter was on the roof? And then you have Benjamin Netanyahu coming in here. Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. A lion-hearted friend of Israel, he fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel. Sadly, that visit will not take place. We lost an incredible human being. His boundless pride in America and his valiant belief in free speech will leave a lasting impact. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. First of all, how does Benjamin Netanyahu know why Charlie Kirk was killed? How does he know why he was killed? The shooter has not been captured. Still, how does he know the reason why Charlie Kirk was killed? I found it very strange yesterday that a lot of Israeli politicians were very quick to tweet after he was shot, and then again after he was killed. And I bring that up because of this. Just recently, Charlie Kirk was on Meg Kelly's show. Let me go ahead and put this up here. He was on Megyn Kelly's show talking about Israel. Listen to this.
Sudden, like I host a person that I moderate the debate of, mind you, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate, and my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper paranoid, like we're just going to try to, we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice. But it goes to the point where if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government without backlash than actual Israelis do. Mm-hmm. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megan? That's not right.
You hear that? He was starting to question, it seems like to me. There's another one here. This was very recent. Listen to what he said to Ben Shapiro about Israel.
Charlie, we've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so like maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So, Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be? And how does...
You get the point. He was starting to question Israel. He was starting to ask questions. I don't know. This whole Israel thing is starting to be a little bit weird for me, even when it came to Epstein and Israel and Epstein being massaged.
Lies that Epstein, with his little friend Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who is obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies, that there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well. The sweatpants and the Harvard jacket, the kind of disheveled hair, looking as if he was so smart and above the clouds that he was doing advanced mathematic equations on the back of napkins. But if you actually go into some of the videos of people that met with Epstein at the time, they said he was awfully unimpressive when it came to finance and markets and economics. And it's nothing new that if you're in the intel agencies, you want to try and get as much blackmail on powerful people as possible. Easy, not hard. And this is no longer just speculation. First of all, the evidence that shows that Epstein was a creation of either Mossad, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, Saudi intelligence, or maybe he was just a hired gun. Maybe he was just the guy that countries would go to and park a couple $100 million and say, hey, can you get one of the members of the royal family with a 13-year-old so we can get them to do what we want to do? Members of Congress are actively being blackmailed. The Epstein playbook is being used on a daily basis.
Charlie Kirk was starting to ask questions about Israel. And this gentleman here, which this tweet really went viral, his name is Harrison Smith. I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. Okay, so here he is right here explaining himself.
Viral from last month. It's now the #1 tweet on anything Benjamin Netanyahu is posting. So thanks, guys. Really glad I'm on his radar now. That's cool. But it's true. I mean, I don't really have too much to add to it, honestly. I'm not going to say who it was that told me because they've asked me not to, kind of for obvious reasons. So if they want to go public, they're more than welcome to. I don't have much to add to it other than basically like a month ago, I watched an interview with Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk, and I thought they looked scared, and I commented on that, made a video out of it. And then like a day or so later, I was talking to this person, and the way I remember the conversation going was that we were just talking about sort of Israel and Zionism and Zionist influencers, and Charlie Kirk came up, and I remember the other person saying to me, well, you know, Charlie Kirk says he's afraid to go against Israel because he thinks they might kill him. And I said, that's crazy because I just made that video about how Charlie Kirk seems scared. That's crazy that you're saying that.
Does everybody, like, guys, just connect the dots? Does everybody see what's really happening here? So people say, well, Israel would go after someone on the left, not someone on the right. To me, that seems a little too obvious. Because Charlie Kirk was still pro-Israel, but he was starting to question it. And he wasn't questioning it in private. He was questioning it on his show. Now, as of right now, still, the shooter, still right now, we don't know who the shooter is. And you have people, commentators that are saying, it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. We don't know who the shooter is. But based on the video that I saw, and the fact that as of right now, the shooter still has not been captured, I point towards intelligence. And I would not be surprised if there was some involvement here from Israel. It doesn't mean that it was, an Israeli that did this. But I would not put it past. Guys, we had Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., JFK, RFK killed in this country. Are people forgetting what country this is? When people sit up there and they say that, people are saying it now, this is not who America is. This is not who we are as a country. We're not a violent country. America is a violent country. Let's stop pretending that we're something that we're not. Right after Charlie Kirk was shot, there was another mass shooting. Right after. We were just talking about a shooting that happened at a Catholic school just a week or so ago. Stop saying that. This is exactly who America is. But the fact that people aren't putting the pieces together, use your minds, use your brains, put the pieces together. They came at like all these people that have been killed in this country by intel. And people say, well, they wouldn't do that to Charlie Kirk. They could do it to anybody. Anybody that they see no longer fits their bottom line. He was starting to question it. He was starting to question Israel. And that's why I believe that intel was all behind this. And there's a new update here about the shooter from Brian Allen here. It says, breaking, FBI now investigating possible foreign intelligence links to Charlie Kirk's assassin. This just went from domestic tragedy to international chessboard. Multiple leads suggest the shooter may have been tied directly or indirectly to foreign intel networks. Now, this was published after I pretty much came to this conclusion on my own, which I was like, this could be intel. Again, the shooter has not been captured. I don't want to keep you guys all day, but I want to say this. What happened to Charlie Kirk can happen to, again, anybody and any political commentator. So think about that. There are a number of us that go to events that have, that speak at these events, that speak at rallies. Could have happened to any one of us. At the same time, people do have to understand, and I cannot stress this enough, do have to understand, you cannot expect the Black community to come out and mourn Charlie Kirk after the way that he has demonized and vilified the Black community over the years. 3, the fact that he's been doing that over the years, people need to ask, why did this happen now? What has changed? 4, the change is he was starting to question Israel and did so publicly on his show. That's a problem for Israel. People were starting to talk about that there's a possibility that Charlie Kirk could run for president. Israel saw him as someone, yay, this is a great ally of ours. We know we got a believer in him. This is going to be great. He started to waver on that. You have the video from the gentleman telling you that Charlie Kirk believed that if he were to change his mind or turn on Israel, that they would kill him. Shows that there was some type of fear there. And then last but not least, the left and the right were starting to come together for some type of an anti-war coalition to push back against sending money to Israel, to push back against a genocide in Gaza, to push back against the U.S. being attached at the hip to Israel. And lo and behold, they found a way to break that up. These are the things that I want you to think about. We'll have to stay tuned to find out what other information is revealed, but it is very telling that they still have not found the shooter. Think about that. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.